We are the Armed Attorneys. Today we are coming to you live with your questions answered. We're trying to work out all the bugs here. Thank you for your patience. We've done a couple of these, but we'll see how this one goes. We're going to be talking about self-defense with NFA items, maybe homemade firearms, post office carry, some other fun things. But as always, if you enjoy this, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting that like button and leave your questions in the comment section below. We're going to be answering questions live today. That's what we're working towards. Again, maybe there's some hiccups. We're working on it. Sometimes this channel looks like it's run by lawyers because it is. And hey, Emily, how's it going?
No, it's good. It's good. It's good. We've got our pre-prepared questions here. We pulled from a previous video, but we are counting on you. We've actually already seen a couple come in that we'd like to answer. So let's go. Let's hit it.
Yeah, sorry. First one, we'll start with Help Desk. He says, what about a suppressed full auto SBR? Sometimes it's not about the right tool, but the tool you have available at the time. So we're talking about self-defense. We're talking about a triple stamp item, it sounds like. What does that look like in a self-defense case?
I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? I mean, it's what you have available. I mean, it's like, would I rather use a suppressed full auto SBR or die? I mean, I know what choice I'm going to make. Also, if I'm like the guy with the buttons sweating.
Oh yeah.
The meme I'm talking about.
Sure.
Like if I have like that versus like, a Glock 19, I'm going to pick up the Glock 19.
Yes.
But choice of evils, right?
Yeah, we've talked about this before. Hey, will the fact that you're using an NFA item in a self-defense incident, does that turn a justified incident into an unjustified incident or a bad? No, it doesn't. But could it cause issues at trial? It does, but I will say, if you have a justified self-defense case, I mean, the presence of an NFA item or the use of an NFA item, even if it's a triple stamp,
yeah,
I can't imagine that that's going to transform it into a bad shoot.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like thinking about it now, if I'm going to have one stamp versus a triple stamp item, maybe as the defense attorney, I'm like, rack them up, baby. Because then I'm like,
he got permission from the federal government three times.
Look how legal this guy is. He's so legal, you guys. I mean, that's, potentially, right?
Yeah. All right. Here's the next one to you. This is from GRK608. Hey, Emily and Leslie. This is directly to the ladies. Question for you. What is the law regarding using a ghost? He makes it all spooky. Ghost gun pistol for self-defense at home. And he has, he talked about a registered suppressor on this one. We'll set the suppressor off just for a second. Homemade firearm self-defense, kind of similar discussion.
Yeah, fine. I mean, as long as, again, know your state's law, know that you are fine to own and possess a ghost gun. But even though, I mean, bear in mind, our ghost gun rule has gone into effect now for realsies, right? Because that was Supreme Court, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's just really, this is on manufacturers and folks who build these kits.
Yes, so you don't have to worry about it.
If you make this homemade, this isn't affecting you.
So. Correct. Like, let's say you have one you haven't milled out yet. It's just sitting in your house. Go ahead and make it. It's fine. Again, check your state's law, make sure that's legal in your state. But by the federal law in the great state of Texas, you're all good. So again, yeah, same analysis we were talking about before. Would I rather have something a little bit more stock to deal with? I mean, first of all, you're going to lose whatever you shot with for some period of time.
Sure.
To the government as evidence. Would I rather be dealing with something stock versus custom? Probably. Just as an attorney, the less kind of weird stuff you throw in generally in front of a jury is good. Is it going to make or break you? Nah.
And I'll say, I bet in a lot of situations, the fact that it's a homemade firearm won't even come to the attention of law enforcement unless you tell them. Well, also, no,
because they're going to see that if it's unserialized, they
correct.
Are going to note that. That's
correct.
Going to be
They'll say unserialized
yeah.
firearm, and then yes, that will get paraded around in front of the jury. But these other, homemade firearms, especially if you're buying a new kit, let's say tomorrow, and it has a serial number.
They're never going to know.
They're never going to know. And these firearms, when you hear about, hey, we're going to go inspect your firearm, or it goes to the sheriff's department, or they take it to a range, really what they're checking out is this gun going to malfunction, or did it go off by accident? Because they don't want you to be at trial and for the very first time say it was an accident, or the gun wasn't operable, like the movie Shooter, where you didn't even have the firing pin in it, right? They would have figured that out if they tested the firearm. But you see that. You never see it. It's 5 out of 10. It's fine. But the but they don't want you to raise that argument, new argument at trial. Hey, this gun malfunctioned or it was an accident. So
Yeah. So, but no, I would. Yeah, you're 100% right about that. I was going to say I've made one gun in my life, and it was we bought a serialized lower and
yeah.
then bought all the other parts and then did the grown up Lego game. So yeah, I would never ever tell the police if that's what I was actually had to use.
All right, we're gonna go to this live question just because it's in the
Ooh.
same vein right now. This is Carlos. He says, "If I'm not at home and my wife needs to use the suppressor, it's only in my name for the tax stamp that's attached to the firearm. What happens to us legally?"
Ooh. Well, Carlos, I'm assuming that you own it personally, not through trust, in which your wife would also be a co-trustee. Technically, you are supposed to be there supervising any use of that item. However, Richard, what happens if she has to use it in self-defense and you're not there?
Right. Well, you don't lose your right to defend yourself. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, you don't have to die because it's not legally possessed. It triggers a legal doctrine known as necessity. And so what that is, it's a balancing act between, that the courts use. They say, is the harm that you're causing, so in this case, the unlawful possession of an item that's not registered to the person. All right, we look at that harm. Look at the harm that the person is preventing. Is it potentially death, serious bodily injury, death, murder, all these other things? Well, obviously, the harm of the perpetrator in this case so far greatly outweighs the harm that your wife under these circumstances would be causing. We want to encourage people to do the lesser of two harms and to reduce damage on society. And so she would have a necessity argument.
Yeah. Oh, can we take another live?
Sure.
This is from Ethan Compton. Do you think misdemeanor domestic violence convictions will be able to get their gun rights restored?
I don't see an appetite for it right now from our Supreme Court, is the short answer.
Short answer. I mean, the answer is they should.
Right.
They should. There are so many misdemeanor convictions for domestic violence for people who 100% deserve to have their gun rights. Now, are there like anybody out there, people who haven't been convicted of crimes yet, where I'm like, oh man, that guy really sucks, Sure. But there are so many more people who deserve their gun rights who have that conviction. I would love to see that happen. I'm with Richard. I don't think the Supreme Court is there.
Well, especially in light of Rahimi, which Rahimi was even, one step further removed.
Right, he wasn't even convicted.
He wasn't one of these persons convicted of misdemeanor crime of domestic violence. He was just under a protective order. So we see that being even a step further away from that, and there was no appetite to address that infringement. I don't see it happening anytime soon. The biggest kind of thing that drives me nuts about all these things is there's a ton of states that have fine-only punishments for what qualifies as a federal prohibition, lifetime prohibition on firearms and ammunition.
Texas, one of them.
Yeah, Texas is one of them. And these people have no idea when they go down to their local justice of the peace and pay a $50 ticket, they've lost their firearms rights forever.
Well, they get admonished.
Sure, they get handed a stack of papers and they're do you want to go to trial or you want to sign the deal?
Right. So that's why it's legally sufficient, is because technically you do get advised that you're signing away your gun rights.
Yep.
But yes, it is in a stack of papers, and hopefully the judge says it out loud. Maybe they don't. And so it really is unfortunate. I would love to see it happen, but I'm with Richard. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
All right, you want to grab the next one?
Sure. On the paper?
Sure.
I'm not reading that out loud, that long handle.
Sure.
This is from a gentleman, because all 97% of our audience is male.
We see you.
Okay. My background checks always come back as delayed. Richard, how do I fix this?
So it's frustrating. As part of this happened during Obama. They had the Fix Nix Act where where they dumped a ton of money into trying to clean up the background check system, and in the process have totally mucked things up. And
as the federal government is wont to do when they dump money into anything, it goes to hell.
Yeah. So I would say the lowest hanging fruit for you, if you're getting repeated delays on, let's say, firearms transfers, well, first, see if your state has a license or permit to carry that qualifies as a substitute to the background check. I'd say go do that. Now you're avoiding all these problems. All right, let's say it doesn't, or hey, you just want to carry under constitutional permitless carry. You don't want a government permission slip. I would actually advise you to go check out the FBI identity history check summaries. And this is where you get your federal rap sheet or your background check. And a lot of people are surprised when they apply for that and they get their background check back. They see, hey, look, there's something on here that isn't That's not me. Okay, well, there's a solution to that. You challenge it, and there's a whole process to it. Pretty easy. Or you'll get something back, and it'll be a little bit wrong. Like it'll say, "Hey, look, you were charged with this crime way back when, but we don't have an outcome or disposition." And so that's the information the FBI has. And you can go back to your local agency or your clerk of your court and say, "Hey, look, the FBI has some kind of screwy information here. I just want to make sure they have a complete record." The state could, they fix the record. The FBI gets updated. I'll say that gets rid of a ton of delays.
Mm-hmm. It does. It does. So I have a one from Tony Clark here.
Okay.
Wants to know if you can carry your ghost pew as your everyday carry with your permit.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, as
long as it's legal in your
yeah,
state.
as long as it's legal in your legal, not illegal. As long as it's legal in your state, no issue there.
Yeah.
Issue
No,
there.
don't worry. Because think about, again, if you live in a free state like Texas, think about how many guns there are that are unserialized because they were manufactured before 1968, right? Before you had to serialize. So I
Right.
mean, there's a ton out there, and generally it's not an issue.
Yeah. All right, we'll go to this one. This is Mr. Jimmy. He says, "What is the punishment for having a gun in a post office parking lot? I mail a lot of stuff sometimes, and I get my gun in the car. Is it going to get me arrested if, let's say, my car gets stolen?" So this is a good reminder. There's two things to carrying at post offices. We're not talking about carrying inside the building, federal facilities. I think everybody knows that's off limits. But let's talk about the parking lot.
Yes. So two bodies will come out to investigate your car being stolen from the post office parking lot: your local PD and also the post office police. Don't tell the post office police there was a gun in there. Let's start with that,
Sure.
right? Your local PD probably doesn't care. I once had a client, we've talked about this on the channel before, shoot somebody in a post office parking lot. And sure enough, Houston PD shows up. Post office police there with bells on. They are so excited to get to do something. And he actually didn't get a ticket from the
Interesting.
post office police. And so, I mean, an HPD can't do anything about the post office violation because it's not in Texas law, right? So sure enough, I mean, don't tell the post office PD just in case. But yeah, I mean, you need the two bodies to show up. Number one, there's only one of them that can give you a ticket for it, but it is hopefully a ticket if it's just in the parking lot.
Yeah, so what
It can be punished by some jail time though, right?
Yeah, so this is it's an infraction under the Code of Federal Regulation.
Infraction.
We know how you folks love the Code of Federal Regulation and how that has the force of law. If you're just listening, I'm shaking my head no. But if you wanted to, know what your maximum exposure would be, again, this is not carrying into buildings, not federal facilities. We're talking about parking lot alone. It's in 39 CFR 232.1. And ultimately, our penalty comes down to up to 30 days in jail. And the fine is not assigned in this section, but reading some cases and how these administrative law judges are supposed to interpret this stuff, it looks like it's going to be a civil infraction of up to $5,000. So think about post office parking lot carry. This is our standalone post offices, not talking about post offices in a strip store center, and not talking about inside the building, just the parking lot. Up to 30 days in jail, up to a $5,000 fine, potential exposure. We talk to thousands of people every single year. Have you ever heard of somebody getting a ticket or getting arrested for one of those?
No, never.
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 I've never.
Like I said, they actually came out and investigated my guy who actually killed someone, and they still were like, I mean, they were happy to have something to do, but they still didn't give him. I guess they figured it was either self-defense or you're charged with murder. So what is this infraction going to do for you?
Yeah.
They're not the VA hospital police. I'll tell you that.
No,
'cause they'll get you.
They'll get you. Yeah, the VA, and they have valets.
Oh yeah, they'll sing like a canary.
They get like a bounty if they
Yeah.
find a firearm in your car.
They do. So don't mess with that one.
Yeah,
Post
don't mess
office
with that
though,
one.
I mean, I can't advise anyone to break the law. First of all, this isn't legal advice. We're not
Sure.
your attorneys. Second of all, any attorney who tells you it's okay to break the law is at risk of getting their bar license revoked. So no one here would ever say something like that. But
Don't carry it. Yeah, don't.
I mean, the
That's
chances that
prohibited.
you're going to get caught are really unlikely. I'll say that.
All right, I got a question from you. This is from the chat. This is Robert. He says, 1,000-foot rule for schools. What if I'm jogging on school or a sidewalk around it and they get stopped? How does the 1,000-foot rule work for the gun-free zones?
Well, that's the Federal Gun Free School Zone Act.
Yeah.
So There are many, many exceptions to said act. Said act does say that you cannot possess a firearm within 1,000 feet of a school, and if so, it is a violation of federal law. Bear in mind, many states have boundaries around schools as well, so just keep that in mind. But this is the federal 1,000-foot rule. There are many, many exceptions to this. The most frequently used being you have a license or permit to carry a weapon from the state in which the school sits. So, Texas school, you got a Texas permit. Texas school, you carry under a Florida non-resident permit.
Doesn't apply.
Doesn't apply. You don't get the exception. They're also there's what, hunting within, if there's hunting grounds within.
Yeah, if you're needing to access a location where you're hunting, if you have your gun in a gun rack in your car.
Or case. Yeah.
Gun case, that's
driving
fine.
through. Living within 1,000 feet of a school, you can have it in your habitation. That's
if you're
an
a
exception.
law enforcement, police officer, military exception. So there's a lot of exceptions.
Yeah. But again, bear in mind, state police are not going to enforce this. Are they going to call out federal authorities to enforce it if you're just a jogger and for some reason something happens? Now, if you're one of those guys who's doing a protest and walking around with an openly carried firearm right outside of school, somebody's going to get called on you and you're going to have to see about that. But if you're just a guy or you get pulled over within 1,000 feet of a school,
yeah, there's not
again, even if you don't fall into an exception, the chances that there's a consequence are pretty low.
Yeah, got a good live question. The assassin of the gray said, if I'm using a weapon with expensive parts, sights, flashlight, etc., in home defense, can you insist on removing them before turning it over to law enforcement officers to prevent them from going missing? Legitimate concern. Lots of firearms parts go missing. I'll say more often than not, you get the gun back in the condition that you turned it over to law enforcement, but it does happen. Are they going to let you remove your expensive parts? Absolutely not. Anytime that the police are investigating a potential crime, keep in mind, self-defense, this is a justification to what would otherwise be a crime. They're going to gather everything that tends to show that this happened, didn't happen, and they're going to want to preserve it in the condition that it was used. So they are not going to let you walk off with your very expensive optic.
No, they are not going to let you do it, and you should not do it before they arrive, because what is that, Richard?
That could be tampering with or fabricating evidence.
I am certain they would call that tampering with evidence. So, unfortunate. But yeah, I will say, though rigmarole is often imposed upon it, most of my clients get their stuff back in the condition in which they turn it over.
Yeah.
So, HPD mushroom rats aside.
Sure.
Right. So.
Yeah, if you didn't hear that, the Houston Police Department got invaded by a bunch of rats that became addicted to all the drugs, and they had to dismiss kind of a lot of cases.
Yeah, it turns out you can't let rats eat all your evidence and then still prosecute people.
Yeah.
So.
It seems fair to me. All right, next one. This to you, Emily. Null Space says, what's your team's take on implications of, and I'm just going to, this applies to everywhere, not just Texas, HB 4818 creating enhanced LTCs, because this is a hypothetical discussion. What if, you have 2 levels of license to carry or permits to carry, regular one, an enhanced one?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I will say this is incredibly hypothetical in Texas because we didn't move any of our gun shit this year.
We got some gun stuff moving. Some moving.
We have a few things moving.
Sure.
Not as many as we would like. And that was a whole video that we made and then didn't air last week.
Well, because things started moving.
Because things started moving under threat.
I do love that. Our legislature, can we just sidebar just for a moment? The legislature got wind that we were going to
blow them up.
Send out an email.
Blow their asses up.
Send out an email and make a video, and we didn't have to do either.
We did not.
That's kind of crazy how that works.
It was very nice, but also.
And shout out to I saw this comment earlier, Gun Owners of America, GOA all the way. Hardworking state director Lee, Kyle, also working very hard. This stuff is, I'll say, just the whiff that an email might get sent out
by GOA.
By
made
GOA.
Them act.
Yeah, made them act. It's pretty fantastic.
So yes, that was wonderful. Although not as much as moving. Okay, all right.
Sidebar back, enhanced LTC.
Enhanced LTCs. How do we feel about that? Torn. Because for most of us in most states, there are always going to be gun-free zones. Unfortunate, but that's the true,
Mm-hmm.
right? So even you see reasoning under Bruin, you see talk of sensitive places. Supreme Court is going to uphold gun-free zones. Not New York style, everything's a gun-free zone, but there's always going to be gun-free zones. Supreme Court's always going to say it's okay, and the states are always going to impose them because governments love restricting your freedom. So if the choice is between that stark reality and like, okay, I have to get a permission slip from the government, but if I get my extra special enhanced permission slip with more hours of training, I get to have less gun-free zones. I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get the enhanced LTC, right?
Yeah, no, and this is obviously we'd love to live in land where snap fingers, all Second Amendment infringements go away. Okay, that doesn't exist. So
Right.
back to where we are. Multiple levels of LTC. I think it's a very good idea. Or even, I think Texas is at the point now to where the LTC
Should just be an enhanced
should be
LTC.
the enhanced
Yeah.
LTC. And when what we're talking about that is, prior to constitutional or permitless carry, the only way a person could carry generally in public is with a license. That's how it was in Texas. Well, now that that's gone away, we still have our list of prohibited places that even license holders can't carry. If there was some kind of enhanced, almost treated like law enforcement officers, where you could carry inside of what would otherwise be prohibited places, I think that'd be fantastic. Gun owner license holders, the most law-abiding demographic that I'm aware of that gets tracked. I mean, they commit crime at a rate of updated number 1/6 of Texas peace officers.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they're really stinking law-abiding. Is it going to be dangerous for these folks to be carrying into what would otherwise be gun-free zones? No, I mean it's gonna make people more safe.
Yes. So, yes, I would love to live in a world where we didn't have to ask for permission, but given that that is just not the practical world we're going to live in anytime soon, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure. Sure enough. Okay, here's one I like. Uncle Mike. Uncle Mike wants to know,
we've taken an Uncle Mike question before, I think.
have we?
Yeah,
Excellent.
welcome back.
Um, take a picture of the evidence taken when it comes to the pew. Should you be photographing your gun before the police take it? What do you think?
I think that is a good idea, but do not reveal that you took photographs.
Yeah, no,
Because
because then they're going to dump your phone.
yeah, here's where yeah, the pros are. All right, you have photographs of all right that
The
maybe
condition.
yeah of the condition of the firearm.
It's good.
The bad news is you've created evidence, and now that evidence lives on your phone. And if the police find out about it, they're gonna get a search warrant, and they're gonna take everything on your phone.
Yes.
So
We don't want that.
no, we don't want that. It's kind of goes to the same, general theory we have behind like ring cameras or surveillance cameras or dash mounted cameras. That's shows reasonable people acting reasonably, unreasonable people acting unreasonably, but always, don't volunteer that information to law enforcement. If you can, place them
Yeah.
in a way that aren't immediately apparent. Let your attorney decide if and when, if at all, to disclose that material.
Yes, because a phone dump is so invasive. Even like, I don't do anything wrong.
Sure.
I'm just a mom of two. I'm a third trimester pregnant mother of two. I don't do anything bad with my
Why'd
phone.
you Google that?
Well, no, but I mean, but see, it's not just, yes, it's your Google search history. It's all, they're going to look at all what social media apps do you have. So if you had ones that they hadn't tracked down yet, they're going to find them. It's like your text messages between friends where like maybe you said something that's an inside joke that appears to be off color that might play into, the situation in your case. It's like, do you remember, you remember there was a capital misdemeanor down in Galveston very, very early in our careers.
Yep,
You know what I'm talking
I
about?
do.
And they actually, the detective on the case decided to like record his conversation that he was having on his desk phone with the defendant. And it was everything came out of the conversation because it was about whether or not the guy lied to the police. Basically, it was a false report case. And so the detective decided to record the conversation with his cell phone, and then that was going to be introduced as evidence. And the defense attorney, very slyly, was like, "Okay, super. We need an entire phone dump." And the judge, because she is retired now and was an idiot, but she agreed. She said, "Yep, you're right. Dump his whole phone." And you know who was really angry about all those? Like, because I got to see his whole phone. All the prosecutors I worked with on the case got to see his whole phone. The judge had to in camera inspect some things. the defense attorney and the defendant got to see his whole phone. You know who wasn't happy about that?
His wife.
His wife, because there were some pictures of her on that phone. So, it's not something you want. Take the pictures. Do not reveal the place you took pictures.
All right, we'll go to this one. This is John Denton. When selecting a jury during voir dire for a self-defense case, what might be the traits or circumstances that you look for in a prospective juror? I think we're going to do a full video on this for Wednesday.
I think we are. Stay tuned.
Yeah,
Let's not answer it right now.
Yeah, we'll save that one for Wednesday. So if you want to know how to get on a self-defense jury, you got to come back and see us then. All right, let's go to live questions.
Yep.
Again, this is a fun reminder. If you have any questions you'd like to answer them, we'll be on here a couple more minutes, but post those in the chat right now. We're going to be going through them, answering your questions. You have anything lined up, Emily?
What's the difference between a lawyer and a catfish?
Ooh, all right. I want to hear the conclusion of that joke.
Yeah.
Something.
So,
Well,
come
I mean,
on,
I know
Isosceles, follow up.
they're both bottom feeders. They both die when you take them out of water. No, I don't know where I'm going
Yeah,
with that one.
no one likes us till you need us.
Sure.
I'll tell you that.
That's what I tell folks. It's like a lawyer, yes, maybe there's some mystique around it, but really we're just high-paid janitors. It's just how big is the mess?
Yeah.
And sometimes the messes are small, easy to clean up. Sometimes they're really big messes.
So I will say there's a question about an amici in a Ninth Circuit case. I have not looked into that yet, but I will. So stay tuned for that. Just can't answer it live. How about, I just saw one about guns. All right, here we go. If someone breaks into your home and you use a firearm to defend yourself and the intruder doesn't make it, why does law enforcement get to take the firearm? Well, they're doing an investigation into a murder. And that's really the rub of all of it. Although I will say, have you had cases where they didn't take the murder gun? Because I have.
Yeah, me. Yeah.
I have had those cases.
I've had those cases.
They get to take it if they want. And in fact, in a murder, they get to hold it as evidence forever if they choose to do so. It really just depends on what kind of law enforcement agents you got coming out, what they think of the veracity of your self-defense claim in the moment there, because they could not take it at all. I've had that happen to lots of clients. But you have lots of guys, especially the younger generation of law enforcement. They're very, very by the book. They have been, trial attorneys get better and better every year.
Yeah.
Because we go to more and more CLEs. The internet has made all things possible for all of us. We get good tips, we get good coaching, we get to watch trials that we never would have been able to go see because now we can watch them on the internet after hours. It's not a matter of having to take off time from your practice to go watch other attorneys try cases. Trial attorneys get better and better every year. The younger generation of law enforcement, they get better about their procedures and their policies every year because they get torn to shreds on the stand by defense attorneys who just keep getting better and better. So generally speaking, the younger your officers are, the more likely they are to do every single thing by the book, even if common sense wouldn't dictate, which often means taking that firearm because there is an investigation into a murder, even if ultimately they decide not to prosecute you. So it's a good question. Bear in mind that even if they don't prosecute you, but generally speaking, they're going to, if they have this, they could draft a search warrant, which might include all firearms in the home. We see that happen in about 15% of cases. And then we have to fight against that, try to get them back, try to get them excluded potentially from evidence at trial. There's no good reason why they should do that, but 10 to 15% of the time they get real mad, they draft a warrant and they try to get not just the gun you use, but all of your guns. And then they go from there. So,
all right, just a couple more questions and then we're going to wrap it up. First question, this is just for clarification under Texas law, felons and possession of firearms. So, under federal law, a person, if you're convicted of a felony offense, you're prohibited for life from possessing, owning, or transporting firearms or ammunition. That's everywhere under federal law. Texas, we carve this out and say 5 years after you're off paper, released from confinement, off parole, supervision, all that stuff's done, you could have it in the place of where you stay at night, your habitation. Outside of that, we're talking inside the building. Outside of that, your car, your driveway, your place of business, that doesn't apply to any of those. All right, next question that we had that I wanted to go over really quickly. There's two bills that we want our Texans to be looking at and advocating for right now. In the House, it's HB 170. In the Senate, it's SB 1730. These are bolstered civil protections for self-defenders so they don't get sued out of existence for justified self-defense. That latter bill, 1730, is going to be heard in the Senate tomorrow. I'm actually going to drive to Austin tonight. I'll be testifying tomorrow morning in the Senate Criminal Justice Committee. So
if you want to tune in and watch Richard testify,
sure, I'll be there for 2 minutes.
A little less exciting than this.
Yeah, I'll be there for 2 minutes and I'll turn around. I'll drive right back here. But those are two bills. If you want to help those out, call your lawmakers. Ask them to support those two bills. 170 is kind of stuck in our calendars committee right now. 1730, I can't believe we got a hearing on it. So that's incredible. But call your senator, your state senator in Texas, and let them know, hey, we support this bill if you're interested in that kind of stuff.
So Emerus T, any references for a Tucson self-defense attorney before you need one? Yes, start with Craig Rosenstein.
Yeah, Craig's fantastic.
Craig is, not only is he hilarious and crude and just like one of just a guy you want to get a beer with, he's also an incredibly smart lawyer. And I personally know of him getting people who did not necessarily even deserve it out of some really tough spots. I forget.
Just because you did it doesn't mean the government can prove it.
Exactly. So I forget if his office is in Tucson or not, but even if it's too far away from you, start with Craig. Craig will know who is a really good person in your practice area.
Yep. All right. We want to call that a wrap.
Do we? I'm having so much fun.
Well, I think we're running low on questions.
Are we? Okay, I suppose.
But that's why it's important. You give us your questions. We keep these things going on and on and on if we had more material to work with. Yeah. But I think we're going to start doing this regularly on Mondays. Yes. We've already been doing kind of the mailbag Mondays, answering your questions.
Yeah.
Did you get a question while we were waiting?
No, I just want to say, at Christopher Muncie, thank you. Yes, he is a good viewer.
He is.
A good commenter.
And I was trying to type with him and I misspelled it. I'm sorry, Christopher.
Yeah, no. Yes, that's all. Just one shout out. Thank you for participating in the chat.
But we've been doing these mailbag Mondays. They've all been pre-recorded. I like the live format more.
I like the live.
And we get to
God knows what I'm going to say.
Sure.
Makes Richard nervous.
And, well, we don't have a bleep button yet, so I mean,
do we have a way to
We don't have a dump button. We don't have anything.
We need a way to like Richard's like sweating bullets trying to bleep me on time.
Turn the machines off. But we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
Yes, and join us Wednesday. We are going to cover that one question we started to cover, but I think it's a great standalone video topic. How would you get on a self-defense jury if you wanted to? What would we look for? Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.